Hey, a very good morning and or afternoon at Intersolar Munich, and I'm really happy to have you here. We're going to talk about a couple of things. We're first going to talk about what's happening on the show floor. Secondly, we're going to talk what's happening in Europe with Europe production and also of installation of big solar parks. I'm going to talk with Peter about the solar market, and then we're going to talk about the Chinese market. But first, let me give you some impressions of what's happening on the show floor at Intersolar in Munich. Hi, my name is Vincent Everts from Solarclarity, and in these 2 days at Intersolar, we're going to take you on a tour to everything about the panels. There's lots of news. Inverters, mounting materials, and batteries, which are absolutely necessary to balance the grid nowadays. What's important for us? Of course, the product itself, but also everything around it. What's happening with logistics? What's happening with prices? What's happening with market? What's happening with the law? What's happening with installation? And especially, is the grid still stable? And can we keep it stable with installing lots of batteries and lots of smart systems? So that's what we're going to watch in the next couple of days. Okay, but we're going to start with Peter de Smet, the CEO and founder of Solarclarity, and also the guy who came up with the name Demin, which is a
Denim.
Yeah, fantastic name for a solar brand. We're going to talk about it later. But first, I want to talk to you about the market. Peter, it's been an incredible solar year, unbelievable. If you see all the energy which has been added to the market, 576 gigawatts total added, but most of it, 447, is from solar.
And what is very interesting, it doesn't show on this graph, is that this graph only shows the renewables.
Yeah.
But actually, you can make the same graph for all new energy added to the grid, and then still solar would be by far the biggest. And it gets even better. It's not just so in the last year; it was so in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's
So
amazing. Yeah,
we're really making waves.
yeah. Every time I come here, you've grown 100%, and 100%, and 100%, or 60%, 60% on a really city year, and so it's really it's really amazing how that can go. Okay, so that's really wind 170 gigawatt and solar 447, and we have to basically say that wind is twice as efficient as solar. If you install capacity, wind is there more than solar.
Absolutely, of course, I cannot agree. Even if it would be true,
Sure.
I could still not agree.
Okay, but look at this graph. This is how it's grown, and we thought that the growth would slow down, but last year was an unbelievable growth. It was just like 87% worldwide. What kind of craziness is this?
Yeah, it's a bit craziness. I mean, who would have expected this? No one. There is not a single analyst in the world that would have predicted this.
Really? What were the predictions last year? What were the predictions last year?
It was growth. It was strong growth, but anything near to this.
Yeah.
So this is basically what we doubled the market. We went from 200 something to 575. We doubled the market.
Yeah, 87%.
And doubling the market is
80%,
something you do in a market when it's like an early market.
Yeah.
Not when it's getting into a maturity as we are now.
Yeah.
So
it was the year before it was 46%. The year before it was 18%. So now we increased the growth. Okay. But I mean, a lot of it was China. We're going to talk about
a lot of it is China.
Yeah.
The red part in the bar is China.
Yeah. Third growth. This is about. This is China here on the left. So not only that they produce 95%,
I think
but
that's
they also
very
install.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that people don't realize enough. China is not only the country that produces most of the panels, but it's certainly also the country that consumes or installs most of the panels by far, by distance. And I really think they're doing a super job there.
Yeah. So we're very interested also what that means for for the grid there. They also must have the same problems.
You have to watch China to understand what the big impact of solar energy in the electricity mix is.
Yeah.
So not just making it, or what is the actual impact of so much volatile energy source in your mix?
Yeah.
Because it means a management challenge, of course.
Okay. Last slide I want to show. This is the future. I mean, what are we going to do? Are we going to have high growth, medium growth, or low growth? What is your expectations?
If I could predict that, I probably would be. I don't know.
Is there room to growth?
I think so. At this point in time, the prices of solar modules have dropped to historical low levels.
Yeah.
But it also means that we can use solar in completely different ways than we did before. Before solar for facades was not really an option. Now with the current price, you can put it everywhere.
Yeah, it's cheaper. Cheaper to put solar panels on the buildings, to basically make it beautiful than to have the new materials.
It's cheaper to put solar on a sport field than artificial grass because forget about the hockey fields.
Yeah,
just put solar on it.
Yeah. Okay. Then last thing, is there room to grow? This is the total energy we're using, and if you see all this explosion of growth, you see that solar is 5.5% of the world energy. So we still have.
In reality,
we need to go to 5, 10, 20.
We should never. Realize. So this industry is about 16, 17 years old. That's about 17 years ago. There's a reason why this trade show is in Munich, because the world market was Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And it has spread throughout the world. And now we see that every country in the world basically is starting to pick up on solar.
Yeah.
And that makes, of course, an enormous market driver, which is there room for growth? Yes, globally, there's an enormous amount of growth. I think about Africa and the untapped solar potential there.
We're going to talk with somebody about that, right?
We could,
one of your friends is coming, who is basically very active in Africa.
Yep.
And from Longi, I think.
From Longi, yes.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about him later in the show. So this is a little bit. It's been crazy year, crazy growth, and still we haven't touched the surface yet.
We've only at the beginning. Even though the solar coaster might give us the impression that it's going up and it's going down and everything's going down. In reality, we're only at the beginning.
We're only beginning. Okay, let's go take a look at the show floor. And I went to TW, one of the biggest waffle cell manufacturers of the world, which also went into panels. And I went to take a look at their booth. They have a really nice color, I must say. We're going to take a look at TW, huge company, especially wafer and cells, but they also started 3 years ago to do panels, and we're going to look at the latest innovation in that area. TW is the biggest cell and wafer company, and it all starts with silicon, and that needs to be completely without pollution. 99, 99, 99, 99, 90. 11 zeros of purity. And then they make wafers, and that is turned into cells. TW is very big in Europe. They have a big support staff. First market is China. Second market is Europe. And of course, Benelux is really big. And of course, they have black panels, but they say this is not really black. They have a much blacker one. Black is now about 10% of the complete market worldwide. And also Chinese people are now starting to use it. Used to be only European. So here we see a real complete black 465 watt, which is being produced at the moment and shipped to Europe. So that's really big. This is TW, and what's interesting, they told me last year of the 380 gigawatt which was totally installed, 216 went to China, and the whole grid is now full in China. And they're really working to upgrade the grid, peak shaving, lots of batteries. So everything we have, the problems we have in Europe, they're having in China now too, because they're installing huge amount of solar and have to adapt to the grid just like we. Yeah, that was really fun to basically see that company. I love their color combination.
Color combination is good,
somebody who just entered this whole market.
Yeah,
right?
and they looked at our colors and they followed that. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not an entrant in the market. They have to be specific. TW is one of the largest cell manufacturers in the world.
Sorry.
And they recently, a couple of years ago, they entered also in the panel business.
Yeah, no, so we have to be very exact about that.
Absolutely.
And it's just been also somebody you've been starting to distribute in your country.
Yes.
Okay, welcome Jan Jacob Boom from Holosolis. Holosolis. And come by there. Holosolis. Very nice of you to join it. We're going to talk about Europe and what's happening with the installation of big installations and also that we produce it. And together also with Mr. Fubin Lu of Ecorus. Do I really pronounce that a little bit?
It's perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
perfect. Okay, so now we have this European, the European part of our conversation, and let's first, start. I've been basically demonstrating everybody what all the Chinese manufacturers are doing, and it's dominating. But we've been very interested since COVID to basically bring back production to Europe. So, can you tell me, Jan Jacob, what kind of company do you represent, and what do you produce?
So I'm the president of a company called Holosolus, and exactly in line with what you were saying about what we discovered during COVID and what we discovered also during the war invasion of the Ukraine, and our huge dependency on China on a lot of these equipment, because 95% of the panels installed in Europe come from China.
Yeah.
And also we're a huge dependency on foreign oil and gas, that we decided it was necessary to rebuild an industrial capacity to
Where
generate
did that
those.
decision come from?
That decision didn't come from us. It actually came from the European Union. And the European Union decided that it was time that we ensure that we have energy sovereignty, at least for part of our energy, which makes complete sense.
Yeah.
We don't have oil and gas. We had some oil and gas in the Netherlands, but that's mostly gone. So
Yes, we did a good job on that.
we did a very good job heating up some solar greenhouses. So
Exactly. We have Norway. We have Norway
we
still.
have Norway still
you know.
with a bit of
It's not
gas,
part
but
of the EU. Huh? So.
yeah. So the reality is that we have no more fossil fuels in Europe, and in 2022 we imported for 900 billion euros of oil and gas from nations, non-European nations, and we're importing for 18 billion euros of solar panels per year.
How much? How much?
18.
1/8. So
Yeah.
that's only
A fraction
Compared
we're
to
doing
oil
for
and,
oil.
gas,
Again,
that's
what
only
Peter
very
was
little.
saying is that we've only been installing solar panels for the last 15 years. And you should see how much it's already representing of our energy mix. It's only going to get more. So the idea is that we must have at least some dependency and some sovereignty on the production here.
And
And
then,
so what
okay,
just to finish answer your question, what the European Union has done is that they've implemented the NZIA, the Net Zero Industry Act. And the Net Zero Industry Act is more or less the equivalent of the IRA in America for Europe. And what it does, it says that by 2030, 40% of the solar panels installed in Europe must be made in Europe.
40.
40,
So
40,
that's
not
a serious
14,
statement.
40.
Okay.
Right.
And now it's 3% or something like that.
Now it's less than 3, about
Okay.
5. Yeah.
Wow, 40%.
Yeah.
And
So there's a huge growth to be made, and the entire industry needs to be rebuilt. And this is what we're doing. So we're building a 5 gigawatt solar cell and solar module factory. We looked at 6 countries, 40 sites across Europe, and we selected what, in our opinion, was the best site, which is a 50-hectare site in the northeastern corner of France, just across the German border from Saarbrücken. And we're building a solar cell and solar module factory here, and the thing is colossal. The 50 hectares is 50 football fields. We have 18 hectares of buildings that we will be building, so it's 18 football fields. And to give you an idea, the solar cell factory is 550 meters long and 150 meters wide. You need to manufacture at scale to be competitive.
wow. And who is doing that, and who's organizing, who is financing it?
A good question. Where does the money come from? So right now we have 5 shareholders that are all European players that are involved in one way, shape, or another in the solar industry. So either they're developers or they are providers of, for instance, Heraeus is a provider of the solar paste that you see on the solar cells. The silver lines are silver actually on the solar cell, and they're made by Heraeus, is the leading companies in the world to do that. But also companies like Eno Energy, which is the biggest incubator of renewable energy projects in Europe, industrial projects, and the TSO, which is a developer, EDEC, which is a construction company that builds gigafactories, and Armor, which is specialized in thin films.
Okay, so this is really impressive, Peter. I mean, do you see that in when was it 2000? When did 40% needed to be
2030, tomorrow.
2030?
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of time yet.
I mean, do you see that happening, Peter? I mean, is this an idea about?
I know Jan
European
Jacob, so I
greatness?
know he can do something. So if he says it will happen,
Uh-huh.
I know we at least have a shot. No, well, in all honesty, I think it's enormously challenging.
Yes.
Because 40% is a growing number. Huh? Because the market is growing, you're chasing your target. I think it's extremely challenging. Initiatives like this certainly help build at scale. So we don't need to talk about, well, I mean, you can still build your 50 megawatt factory, and I respect all that, but we need this kind of size, or we need to forget about it.
Yeah, 5 gigabytes is a good
So it's a
start.
0-1 decision.
Yeah, I mean, at the time when we started in solar, a big factory was 120 megawatts. Remember that REC? And then we built a huge one, which was 500 megawatts. And today, minimum size is 3 gigawatts. So 5 gigawatts is the right size. Chinese are building 5 to 10 gigawatt units right now. So it is. You need to have scale, and it's the only way you can be cost competitive. And if a Chinese company were to build the same factory here in Europe and us, we would have the same cost.
Fantastic. Well, let's move to your colleague here, Mr. Let me do that again. Fubin Liu of Ecorus. You're a purchaser, and you're one of the biggest purchasers in the Netherlands of big solar park. Can you introduce your company?
Yeah, sure. So I work for a company called Ecorus, an Ecorus group. We are active in multiple fields, but the two biggest is utility scale. So last year we did 330 megawatts utility scale, more than 90% in the Netherlands. And the other big part of our company is social housing. So we are actively focusing on that segment of the Dutch households.
Yeah.
And there we recently acquired a competitor. So together we are around 20% of that market share.
Yeah. Okay. And you're a purchaser. You basically have gone through hell in the last couple of years, right? I mean, all these projects, it was big supply, small supply, high prices, low prices. How can you build these industry scale projects and keep your sanity, keep your microphone at your chin?
Yeah, of course. I'm not sure I still have my sanity, but I'll try to maintain as much as possible. But that's the obvious solar coaster that we're in. So it's a young industry. A lot of these extremes happen. So how do we do that? Is we really select trustworthy partners. So I think from a procurement perspective, I hope that our competitors will not copy me, but basically we really invest in a relationship and we really build a long trusting relationship, because EPC is all about cost and risk management. And you can only do that if you have strong suppliers that can really, compete with the rest of the market, and that they are reliable, ethical, and do business in the right way.
Yes, that only sounds like it's more difficult. I mean, so how do you do that? I mean, is the supply chain stable enough, and how do you deal with this uncertainty about pricing? Because there are wild swings, right?
Yeah. So I think it goes two ways. So first of all, we have been in the market since 2010. So it means that our reputation and our consistency has a track record. So from the customer side, they know how we are. And from the supply side, they also know how we react. So we always try to avoid what we say being a cowboy. We are not going for the short run. So if we lose money because the prices go down and we already agreed on a price, we sometimes stick to it willingly. And if the prices go the other way around, etc., up, then we expect our suppliers to also keep their promise. So it's really a trusty supply chain.
Long-term relationship, look over the hill to this. Now, if you look at the initiative of buying in Europe, what do you think when you hear that? Is that sane? Is that possible? Is that desirable for big buyers like you?
Yeah, so I've been in the solar business since 2010. I used to work for Ascent, etc. At that time, we also tried to search for European factories. At that time, we had more companies also in Germany active in the solar world. But recently, the Chinese totally took over, right? So it's a very uphill battle for our colleague here. But I really encourage that, because as a European Union, we need to have also our own production base, and also an option, for us as buyers, that we can say also, hey, we also have a European production base. They also have this certain quality. It will help the European Union, I believe. But it's not going to be easy, because most Chinese suppliers, they're vertically integrated. So they have the polysilicon, the wafers, the cell, everything. And you're going to compete against these vertical integrated giants who already have billions of business, and also in other segments of the industry as well. Yeah. So I hope it will work. We'll definitely investigate this new venture, and we'll investigate it thoroughly, because our customers, who are also big European corporates, they also want this. But of course, they are not willing to pay like 2 times, 3 times the market price. They also have a business case to run. That's the hard
Jacob, about this vertical integration. What do you do and what don't you do in the factory? And can you be a competitor in this field?
So 2 questions. First, we will have your 2 questions. First question, what do? We do modules and we do cells. So we do the last 2 parts of the value chain, modules and cells. We will not do the other parts below that, which is ingots and wafers and silicon, because most of these big companies you talk about have created that, but they started in one business and then they expanded in the others. So trying to do everything at once is just a recipe for disaster. You know this, we all know this. Now, the real question is the price, right? That's the real issue. What is the price of the modules made in Europe? Will the modules made in Europe be more expensive than Chinese ones? Yes, they will, because our cost of electricity, our cost of labor, things like this is lower. We have less subsidies than the Chinese. However, again, I repeat, if the Chinese build a factory in Europe and we have ours, the cost will be the same because we compete on the same level. But what's important really is the business model for people like Ecoris. Will they make more money, yes or no, by using European module? If they don't make more money, it makes no sense. And so today what you see through the NZIA is that they've organized so that the auctions that will be coming in the future will put a value on, for instance, the lower carbon footprint, the better social environment in which the modules were made, the various what you call the non-price criteria. These are all very important, and they are what differentiates the cost basis between Europe and China. And so that is specifically taken care of within the NZIA, and every single country can do its own rules of how they achieve this. So already 3 countries have started doing this. Italy has put in a tax credit. If you have several steps, such as modules and cells in Italy plus an inverter, depending on the module type, you get between 20 and 35% tax credit. 20, 35% tax credit, you don't care about the price of the module. You don't care about the price inverter. You make a better deal. And Europe does that so that they can have resiliency and energy sovereignty in case there's an economic challenge like we had with the invasion of the Ukraine, right? And same in Austria has done the same thing.
Yeah.
France is doing also the same steps. And they're just first 3 countries out of 27 that need to create their steps.
Yeah.
And the countries now have 18 months to do that. So this is exactly the time when our factory will be up and running.
Peter, in the electric car drive business, we now have 25% tariffs. Is something like that also necessary in this market?
Well, I think that the system that is now put in place. Look, if in Europe we always want a lot of stuff, and if we want it, then we should also put our money where our mouth is. And this is an initiative where I say we're putting our money where our mouth is. Okay, so if we don't want the transport CO2 output to be in the module, which it obviously will be if it comes from far away, then make sure there is a viable business in Europe. If we don't want this, let's do that. If we don't want it, we have to put our money where our mouth is. And I think these initiatives is a very good. Yeah, I support it. I do, because otherwise, all these words are just empty words. There were a lot of empty words of politicians in the recent years. Now, finally, we're putting our money where our mouth is.
That's true. So, and if we look at your big, huge projects, which you do, is there still possibility of growth? That you go from 350 to 500 to a gigawatt. And how is the grid in the Netherlands, being able to sustain that kind of growth?
Yeah, those are good questions. So let's focus on the Netherlands first. So we believe that the future of solar parks in the Netherlands will be smart parks, right? So no longer simply putting panels, inverters, trafos, and that's it. We're going to put batteries. We're going to do curtailment. We're going to do cable pooling with wind parks because the profiles match a lot. So that's the way how we will try to help the net congestion in this country. And the other part is that, of course, we have to think bigger. So we're part of Europe. So we're also expanding into Germany as we speak, maybe Spain later on as well, because there's more space, more land, and also they have the same, challenges as we have in the Netherlands. But of course, we are very creative and very entrepreneurial in the Netherlands. So we believe that our creativity and how we solve solutions in our tiny but very profitable country, we can export it as well to other European countries as well.
Yeah. What I find interesting is that the Netherlands being so densely populated with people, but nowadays also with solar production, we bump into a lot of congestion problems, a lot of electricity, just basically traffic jam on the electricity grid. And we're learning a lot of new events, what happens, how to deal with it. Also, I find it very interesting to look at, for example, China with their gigantic solar capacity, bumping into the same problems. We can easily predict from those solar hotspots that, hey, we need to make these things smarter, or we can simply forget about it, because Hola Solis, Peter Desmet, Solarclarity, we will not be able to put any solar modules on any roof if we don't start managing how we deal with all this electricity.
Can you help? You have the opportunity to start a business again, right? Restart it. It's beautiful. Can you make it so smart that you can basically help to stabilize the grid?
So no, the solar panels that we will build will just generate electricity, right? But what Fubin was saying was exactly right. We need to provide a mix of solutions to the grid so that we can actually generate electricity from our solar panels. And if they can't be put onto the grid, we must store it.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea. I mean, clearly, there are several options in front of us. We can either go back and build more nuclear power plants, or we can build more coal power plants, or for the same cost, we can do batteries and storage. It just makes sense to do batteries and storage in addition to the nuclear power plants and other solutions. So
When is
it
the
has to be.
factory going to be active?
Our factory will start construction in mid 2025. First panels will come out in mid 2026, and we ramp up from there to 2028 at 5.1 gigawatts of capacity per year.
And in the meantime, you make plans for the second factory, the third factory,
That's
the
right.
fourth
We
factory.
by 2026, 27, we'll see how the market is ramping up, and then we'll replicate exactly what the people in China have been doing. My previous companies, they built one factory, then they built a second one, and each time they were larger. It's probable the next factory is not going to be 5 gigawatts, but probably 10. It's a question of finding the property and the electricity and the markets. But if you look at the progress that can be done in Europe, the Netherlands is a tiny country, and it's
world champion in the
world
amount
champions
of,
in everything,
panels, huh?
and world champions in many, many things. But still, we are 10 times smaller than France. 10 times smaller. We install twice as much PV in Holland than we do in France. So the potential for growth is huge. It's humongous.
What I always find extremely interesting in France to see is that somehow in France there is often an idea that solar only works in the south of France. Yet we are 2 countries north. So there's Belgium, and then there's only us.
Yeah.
So France is huge potential. I think in my opinion, it's one of the most untapped diamond markets in Europe, where so much is still possible. So many meters still to go.
When it's made in France, they will start buying it. Yeah.
No. I mean, it's, of course, but also the difference why it's grown so much in Holland and its other countries is because the cost of electricity in Holland is higher than it is in France. So at the end, it's economics, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's economics. Can people save money in Holland by putting solar panels on social housing? In the UK, same thing. Yes, they do. That's why they do it. People don't do solar because they want to save the world.
No.
They do solar because they can make money.
Yeah, what I wanted to add is that in the Dutch we have, of course, the koopmansgeest. Huh?
Yeah.
So the Dutch see money earlier than other countries in Europe, I would say. And we know that solar is the best, cheapest, affordable source of energy there is. So it's cheaper than nuclear, it's cheaper than coal, it's even much better.
When it's working.
When it's working, of course, but we can solve that. These are challenges that we can solve. So I think that, if you look at me, what is the future of solar? I think it looks still very bright.
I completely agree. And perhaps you could repeat the statistics you just told me earlier about the cost, how much has been invested in Holland for the development of solar up till now, for the 25 gigawatts installed in Holland, versus the investments necessary for the grid, and whether or not it would be better to invest that money in batteries instead.
Absolutely. So you talked about it also this morning. It was 23 billion, billion euros that were invested in the Netherlands in solar up until today, cumulatively.
25 billion.
Yeah, 25 billion. And if we want to adapt the grid to it, we need tenfold that money, 250 billion.
To make it 6 times more.
Let's round up the numbers, let's say. So we need 10 times the investment if we want to change the grid. But see, we say we don't need to adapt to the grid too much. We can far better adapt the intelligence of our systems
and the storage.
And the storage. You can better stick the money in that. It's probably going to need less money. It's going to be much easier to do because it can be local for a local requirement.
Yeah.
So that means storage. That means electricity management, energy management, all that kind of thing. Probably much faster and much cheaper.
And
we'll talk about it tomorrow. That's going to be a great idea. Last question. What is your next project going to be? Your next big project?
Yeah, so we're really eager to go to Germany. So our next big one will be here. So hopefully we get the closing soon. And then we can also show the Germans how we do it in the Netherlands. So that would be good.
Wonderful. Well, I've never seen so much ambition coming from the production kind of the European community. And that we are going to produce really 40% of the panels in Europe. You heard it here first. So remember that. And also we're going to expand from the Netherlands, basically going with big solar projects all over Europe. And you're going to sell his products, I presume, huh?
That's likely, right?
At least 40%. Okay.
Very
Great.
likely.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to talk about the situation in China and what they're doing to basically fix the whole grid. And but first, we're going to take a look at the booth of Longi, what the innovation was there. So join me to go to the Longi booth. Hey, Longi always has lots of innovations. Let's come and take a look. This thing got a design prize even before it came out. It's coming shipping next month. And look, it's completely black. Completely black. No wires in the cell. And let's take a look how that is. The wires are here. They're in the back. So it means that there's more solar in the front. This is 2% more efficiency of a panel. And it's default technology at Longi. This panel is 660 watt, comes Q4, and it gets 24.43 efficiency. I'm really waiting for the 25%. We're going to be there very soon. So that's really innovative. Then I thought this was really wonderful. Everybody in the whole world suffers from dust. And that basically can give you not 1%, 2%, 3% less energy, but 10%. And if you see here, this is a normal panel. Every dust stays here. But they've now made a new panel and it's completely flat. So it means if you now throw in some stuff, it immediately gets thrown out and it basically goes nicely at the bottom of the panel. This new wafer has all kinds of protection on top, and that means that if you have 30 years of solar, it goes down with about 11%. This one takes that into half, so it has really very little degradation over time. But of course, Longi started as a wafer manufacturer. The new one is larger, way less degradation, also a very good temperature coefficient. So this is the base technology which is now shipping, which all the manufacturers will profit from. And lately, they started a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, with hydrogen, which is of course very important to go from winter, summer, and to stabilize the grid. And they have now 30% market share in China, electrolyzers. I don't think they ship it in Europe, but this is also interesting that they do this. And I'm really excited about this thing. To manufacture these panels, can you make the factories more smart? Yes, they have a new Lightning factory, 20% less energy. But look at this, 84% shortened time of delivery, so 4 times as fast the panels come out of the factory. That's really huge. 43% less loss of material, and 30 techniques which are implemented, a lot of smart AI technology. So the factories can also become a lot better. Okay, this was the innovation at Longi. See you next time. Well, I really enjoyed the Longi booth. The Longi booth is always really nice. It really has a nice design, and they always have innovative stuff. So I'm talking here with Mr. Chao.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So keep your microphone here at your skin.
Okay. Great.
And Robert from Solarclarity, welcome. We're going to talk about the Chinese situation and also the Chinese connection to the Netherlands. You are a part of Longi. I saw a lot of nice innovations at your booth. Every year you have a lot of nice, smooth innovations. Why is that? How can Longi always innovate so fast?
Actually, to be frankly, Longi, compared to all of our competitors, Longi has very different genes, because our big boss, is not a businessman. They are scientists. Actually, they are the physicians. So when they graduated from the universities, so they focus on the physical research, or the efficiency research, semiconductor research. So that's why we have this kind of so-called product innovation genes in our side. So that's why we always focus on the product side.
I think it's really. So do you know what the innovations were this year?
Yeah, to be frankly, actually during last exhibition in Shanghai, the snack, everybody know that. Our chairman has an announcement. He said he dared to gambling with everybody that within 5 years' time, the BC technology will be the mainstream of the solar, no matter Topcon, HJU, whatever.
The back contact.
Yes.
So when the bus bars go to the back of the cell.
Yeah.
I showed it in the movie. I mean, we talked,
and
it looks beautifully gorgeous, fantastic, interesting, and it also makes sense, and it's 2% extra. But you know what I thought was the really nicest innovation?
Yeah, please.
So, well, we have a lot of dust. everywhere
anti-dust.
So now there's a dust optimized solar panel, and the only thing they did is make the lower side to make it flat, so that everything can just with water just stream out of it. It's so simple.
Yes.
It's so small, but it makes a lot of
the
sense.
most genius inventions are always the simplest, huh?
Wow.
Yeah. To be frankly, it looks like simple, but actually it
simple,
takes
yeah.
quite a long time to make it quite sustainable and how to say the mechanical load hard enough.
It is complicated.
We take 104 patterns for that.
Oh, okay.
So that
Can you
takes.
imagine? So
It's not that simple.
No, you have to.
It looks simple.
This one you have to let it go through your brain. Huh? So it looks like a very simple sweet spot on the module. Okay, fantastic. 100 and how many patents?
104.
104 patents.
Yeah. Hey, Robert, you always you're the product manager at the Solarclarity of the panels.
Yes.
What kind of innovation is there still innovation, or is it only very, very small parts, and is it just getting cheaper?
Well, I've also visited last week the Shanghai fair, and it's a great fair to see because a lot of these products are products for the next level. So here in Intersolar Munich, you see products as well. Of course, more available for right now. What we see there, that's they keep the products pretty much the same on the look and feel, but the small details are getting more important. So better efficiency cells, more rectangular cells they're using. Also making use of the backside. So a lot of N-type cells are bifacial. So the small details is definitely worth looking at a lot of new developments.
Yeah. So did you see things? You already saw things in Shanghai, which we're going to see next year.
I'm pretty sure.
And what? Give me an example.
Well, we've seen indeed a lot of back contact coming, but then specialized also in higher power. We see more requests on low carbon modules, specifically for France or for Sweden. So the modules is still the module, but inside the module they're upgrading the efficiency, the look, the feel, also where the cells come from. The full supply chain is very important. So a lot of new innovations.
I find it also interesting to see there's a lot of work being done in China also to improve the whole supply chain of the module, the CO2 footprint of the modules, the whole labor supply situation, everything. There's a lot of work being done on that because they simply see, okay, there's demand for that, so let's put that in motion. Let's go and do that.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
I thought interesting the factory.
Yeah.
They showed they had the lightning factory, and they said they had like an 80% less throughput time. The time to go through the factory for a panel decreased with 80%, and 20% less energy, and and 45% less mistakes. So those are not little incremental improvements. Those are big steps. But okay, hey, we're all floored here. We just had a year of 450 gigawatts of installed solar. We didn't think it was possible. We thought everything would be slowed down, but I mean, it doubled almost. And then you in China installed 216 gigawatts, whatever, of panels. How do you do that? And how do you keep the grid stable?
Frankly speaking, actually, China keep a very fast growing for many years. Only last year you see 260, but actually before that year it's closing 200, and this year it will close to 200 as well. So that's already very unbelievable numbers for each year. Yeah. But how can I say? The socket, when we open it, because our government, after the deep research, we see that actually the solar business become one of the cheapest energy and very, very comfortable energy for the whole market to consume, especially compared to our, before China, we have the largest coal stations in the world before.
Yes.
But nowadays we do not allow any coal-fired
plants
to be installed. Start from
No, it's
3
really,
years ago.
it stops.
No, zero. And even our government do not allow our Chinese companies to help the rest of the world to build this
coal-fired
kind of
plant. I didn't know that.
For example,
Really?
like Pakistan, like Bangladesh, this kind of countries before all the their coal stations are all manufactured or built by Chinese.
Okay.
But start from 2 or 3 years ago, we stopped. And if you want us to help you to build, we only build solar farms or wind farms.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we have Peter know that our president, she announced a carbon nature and carbon target, that
Yeah.
kind of 20,
Yeah.
2060, 2060, 2030 and 2060 target.
Yeah.
Targets.
And if you see that what we are doing today, actually before 2030, we will achieve our target.
Did you know this? Did you
Yeah.
know that they don't? That
I
they don't build
I didn't
carbon?
know that. I didn't know. It doesn't surprise me because there's a huge push on clean energy.
Yeah.
And what I have now, it's a gamble I actually, of course, I dare to take, because if in China they say, okay, before 2030 we do X target, I'm sure they will achieve it. I'm sure.
Okay. So one thing, I mean, we need to keep the grid stable. Of course, you
Yeah.
have 1,000,000 volts. We
Yes.
just have 380. Okay, we have everything less, but you have 1,000,000 volts, and you also move it from west
To
to
the
east.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like 3,000 kilometers. You know,
Yes.
it's like everything is mind-bogglingly big. But also on a small scale, what I heard, if you have a roof and you have 1,000 or 2,000 panels, it's obliged to have a battery with that. That is just the law. Is that true?
Actually, it's this start to how to say, we cannot say force, still encourage you to install the battery start from this year.
Oh.
But if you see in the past 5 years,
Yeah.
before the solar take 20 or 25% of the whole, actually now it didn't reach 20 or 25% of our energy consumed yet.
Uh-huh.
So still actually under that circumstance, still we can consume a lot of renewable energy. So especially for the distribution, we call it a DG business. So that's a commercial and
Distribution generation.
distribution
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah.
So but start from this year, because a lot of well-developed area, for example, Shanghai, Yangtze Delta, or the Guangdong, Hong Kong area,
Yeah.
that kind of area, actually nowadays, because they installed a lot, that I think even more than Europe. So now they encourage and ask the citizen and the factory to install the battery.
Okay.
And
And
also,
they ask, when they ask it, quote, ask.
Ask it
Normally
nicely.
companies, they tend to do that.
yes,
Okay.
yes, and they give nice policy.
Uh-huh.
And also, from the other hand, everybody knows that we have the largest EV car industry in the world. Actually, that's connected with our storage. It's
Yeah.
strongly connected.
Yeah.
Because actually all the renewable storage is originally coming from
Yeah,
that part.
the EV market is absolutely the driving force behind the
Yes.
storage market.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can see the development in the electrical vehicles. Storage just follows in that slipstream. Huh?
Because before we just see in the past 3 years, the solar price decreased like 45-50%. But actually, if you see the battery price, it's decreased even more. So that's the leverage to make everything
so
possible.
Really, you think batteries are really starting to go down? Because I mean, in the EV industry, yes, they've gone down to 100 euro per kilowatt hour, and China has that price. But I don't see it I don't see it yet happen with the batteries.
Actually, if you see the battery within 5 years' time, date back, actually the price already decreased more than 85%
Uh-huh.
compared to 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I would say we're more at a leveling out.
They keep stable, I think, because now the capacity is already there. Because if you see how to control the price, as a Chinese, we have the ability to say, especially for the technical business, actually it's divided to two parts. One is your manufacturing capability. Another one is your technical innovation capability.
Yeah.
That's the driving engines for the whole renewable energies.
Yeah.
The same for solar, same for the storage. Actually, if you watch the storage today, the bottleneck, actually there is even higher. I think that's my personal thought, higher than solar business.
Yeah, the technical
The
bottleneck,
bottom
the
for the
technical-
storage. So if you see, for example, like CATO, everybody know the largest EV.
L,
Yeah, they already have 100 gigawatt hour
Yeah.
and the full production. You know.
Yeah. That's true.
It's
Hey,
incredible.
Robert, when you were in Shanghai in the exhibition, did you also see a lot of batteries? Do you really see that growing, the attention and the supply and the integration and the pricing?
Well, what you see now is that in the past you saw a lot of module brands adding, for example, also a battery brand, and it's more like special, and they're selling a system like an inverter and with a module. Now it's more a full standard system is including a battery, and that's also what we have to learn, of course, in Europe. I must say that it's more like, oh, the battery is a bit scary, but you see a lot of new customers, new homeowners are buying a solar system, and the solar system is standard with the battery. In China, the batteries are all over the place.
Yeah. Okay.
There maybe already too many brands.
It's normal. It's standard.
But
Yeah.
it's really standard, and the improvement is good. The look and feel is also getting much more nicer. It's not like an ugly machine. It's really, they really take care of how it looks.
Yeah,
and
it's easy to use. It's
Easy to install, easy to use.
Well, you're one of the. I mean, I met you like 6 or 7 years ago for the first time at Intersolar, and you were already very enthusiastic about, hey, let's get rid of this balancing and let's go to batteries. You're very early. Are you getting impatient? How long it takes?
I've been impatient for the last 5 years because you can easily see that if we're going to produce this much solar electricity, we're going to do it at a certain point in the day.
Yeah,
we're not going to do it at night. We're all going to do it between, let's say, 10 and 4 o'clock, more or less. That's your range when most of it gets pushed into the grid.
Yeah.
Of course, there is a limit to that. So, of course, we have to spread it out over the 24 hours. And, of course, we need batteries to do that. It is so logical, it's almost painful.
I thought that was 5 years ago.
About it.
Yes, I thought that was very, very, very logical, and it takes a long time. Okay, question, Mr. Chow, last question. We're going to round up. How many doublings can we do? How many doublings can we expect from China of production?
How can I say that? If to be a Chinese, I have to say we are unlimited.
That's a very good Chinese answer.
I have to say, as a Chinese, unlimited. Yeah.
I like that.
But anyway, if you see what our government are setting, and because the renewable energy sectors of China is one of the most globalized sectors. So actually, it's really nowadays inside of China we are discussing and have a lot of free marketing discussing. So we should drive by the market.
Yeah,
but I mean, we also need vision, right?
And vision, and that's why, because you work in Africa, and also you work in the Middle East. You work in countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan.
Developing countries.
Very useful there.
And there is so much still to gain there. There is so much still to gain. So, of course, at this point in time, the world production is twice the world consumption, which is not healthy. But if you think of it the other way, of course, with these gigantic production capacities and with these lower prices, countries like Africa, like the Middle East,
actually, we have a saying. We have a saying. Around 2030, that's our chairman saying. If everything goes like this, we think that the world solar market will comes to 1 terawatt. So that's 1,000 gigawatt. So if you see last year we installed 460 gigawatts. This is an unbelievable milestone. Actually, in our eyes, it's halfway. It's halfway. We cannot say it's a starting business because it's already a business, a mainstream business. But we cannot say it's a kind of mature business that still the high growth. We didn't say the incredible growth because in the past several years, I think especially in Benelux, it's a kind of incredible growth. Also in China, it's incredible growth. Yeah. But start from this year, we keep high rate growth.
Okay.
But
so
compared to
a terawatt is not far away.
2030, it's in Chinese eyes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, also in my eyes, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, thank you very much for participating, Robert, Joe, and
Welcome.
Peter.
Yeah.
We're going to listen to one guy, and he's called the Jesus of the solar industry. His name is Auke Hoekstra, and he's basically discussing the topic for tomorrow, where we're going to go more into the grid and the batteries and what's happening in that market, and why would people use batteries, to balance the grid or to take off consumption. And he's basically has some very optimistic things to say. So thank you very much for coming, and let's talk. Let's listen to Auke Hoekstra.
Thank you.
Auke Hoekstra, we're at the Intersolar in Munich, and I was just thinking about you. Every time I'm here and I see that the industry is growing 100%, I'm thinking about you because you made this fantastic slides. Do you remember that the EAA was just wonderful showing the prediction about the solar industry and that it was a little bit stable, and every time it grew 100%.
You see the thick black line, the reality is still increasing super fast, like God knows how, you know that better, 100% per year or something. And basically the horizontal lines indicate that the EAR basically said, well, the industry will stop growing now. Well, I think you are the place that's living proof that the industry didn't stop growing.
The reason I'm asking you is, as you hear, is because I saw this article from you in Solar News, and it says, hey, is the Netherlands investing enough in large batteries? You say, oh, we're going to invest 260 billion euro in the electric grid, and you say there's a lot of other ways to do this, and especially we have to invest in batteries. What are these other things, except if we do the batteries as the last one? What kind of things can we do to make the electric grid stable?
Yeah, so indeed, 236 billion is now planned the coming 10 years for mainly, as they call it, grid reinforcement. Mm-hmm. And I'm basically saying with three things: peak avoidance, dynamic thermal rating, and batteries. We could tackle a whole lot of that. Not everything, but maybe half. And it would cost us maybe a tenth. Well, maybe I'm optimistic.
First,
a lot of potential there.
Yeah, peak avoidance. Smart demand.
Basically means that, well, you know, the grid is made to deal with peaks, and the biggest peak in the year, that's how big the line basically needs to be to your home or business or whatever, right? The biggest peak in the year, because we never want electricity to fail.
Yeah.
But on average, we only use about 1/3 of the electricity that is sort of given to us, sort of the peaks that the peak room is given to us. Mm-hmm. So my simple idea, and it's not new, but we do it insufficiently, is basically if we can manage those peaks away, if we can simply make those peaks a little bit less high and use the energy on other moments of the day, for example, with batteries, as I will describe shortly, but also by, for example, charging your electric vehicle at moments when there's no grid congestion, or maybe using your heat pump or your company a little bit less at moments when there's big peaks. We can already do a lot.
Okay. Then we know that, of course. But then the other way you came here is dynamic thermal rating. I mean, nobody has ever heard about it. What is that?
A lot of people don't. For me, it was. I heard about it like 2 years ago, but only recently have I found out how important it is.
Yeah.
What it basically means, well, the electricity grid. The problem with it is that it gets too hot when you put too much electricity through it, right?
Yeah.
So the heat is basically your problem. The problem is not that you use the line, that you use too much electricity. The problem is that while you use too much electricity, the thing gets too hot. And when it melts, you have a very expensive problem. So before that happens, all kind of fuses blow. But actually, for example, in the middle of winter, you can use your electricity line maybe 50 or even 100% more than you think, because it doesn't heat so fast. Or when you have a sudden peak, but it doesn't last for hours and hours, just lasts for, let's say, half an hour or something, then also the machinery doesn't have enough time to heat up. So if you look at this, if you would use modern digital technology to monitor that every hour or something, you would see that you have a tremendous amount of basically unused capacity that you could now use. So it's basically another form of peak shaving. You have another sort of extra room that's sort of baked in at the moment that we don't use.
So that was Auke Hoekstra, and that's an introduction for tomorrow. I hope you'll be there again. And then we're going to talk about batteries. Batteries. Why do people have batteries? How do basically they earn money? By balancing the grid, the frequency, but also consuming day and night. What are the reasons? How fast is it going to grow? And also, what is the price of batteries going to do in the next 10 years? So we're going to talk with manufacturers, with people who are distributing it. We'll see Peter again, and we hope to see you there. And we'll have new new basically visits to all the important booths. And tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we're here again, and we hope to see you there. Bye.